I need you to listen to me closely. And I need you to try, just for a moment, to believe me. Because what I'm about to tell you, I haven't been allowed to speak about for years. Not publicly, not to my family, not to the other astronauts I trained with. But the silence has become worse than the fear, worse than the nightmares, worse than the thing I left behind on the surface of Mars. So I'm going to tell you the truth about what NASA covered up, the truth about what I saw on Mars. My name isn't important, at least not right now. The agency might be monitoring me. They have ways of knowing when someone starts to slip, when someone starts to remember too clearly. And I remember everything now. There was a time I couldn't, but those memories have clawed their way back, piece by piece, night after night. I was part of the Ares 9 expedition. Not the missions you've seen on TV. Those were the ones they wanted the public to know about. Smiling astronauts, press conferences, controlled information. No, our mission wasn't televised. It wasn't announced, and officially, it never existed. We were sent to investigate something NASA had discovered 12 years earlier, something they couldn't explain, something they only referred to, even in classified documents, as Structure 117A. But among the 6 of us on board, we just called it the door, because that's what it looked like. A door. A massive stone doorway built into the red cliffs of Mars. But Mars was supposed to be dead, lifeless, empty. So why was there a doorway? They never told us who found it first. They never showed us the raw data. Everything was filtered, sterilized, reduced to what they felt we needed to know. They didn't want us to ask questions. They wanted obedience, silence, compliance. But even before we landed, I had a feeling, a pressure in the air, like something was waiting. The day we touched down, I looked out the window of the lander and saw endless dunes of rust-colored sand stretching into a fading horizon. Mars was quiet. So quiet that you could hear the blood moving in your ears if you listened long enough. It's the kind of quiet that makes your thoughts louder. The kind of quiet that makes you realize how far from home you are. We set up the base, ran our tests, sent transmissions back to mission control. For 2 days, everything was normal, monotonous, dry, scientific. But I could feel it, not in the ground, not in the wind, but in the back of my mind, like something was humming just outside the edge of awareness. On the 3rd day, they sent us the coordinates to the door. The 6 of us loaded into the rover, traveling across the barren surface. The tires kicked up trails of vermilion dust behind us, hanging in the air like smoke. The world felt empty, too empty. No animal noises, no wind, just silence and heat. When the door came into view, every one of us fell silent. The structure was carved into the side of a canyon wall. It stood at least 40 feet high, a perfect geometric shape, smooth and symmetrical, as if crafted by intelligent hands. Not erosion, not fractures. Something made it. And there were markings, symbols, patterns I didn't recognize but somehow felt familiar, like they were reaching for some buried part of my mind. Dr. Harris, our archaeologist, whispered, "This is impossible." But there it was, impossible and real. We approached slowly, every step echoing in our suits. The door wasn't sealed. There was a slit down the center, just wide enough to see darkness inside. "Are we going in?" one of the engineers asked. Harris stepped closer. They wouldn't have sent us here just to look at it. I wished she was wrong. I wished we could have taken pictures, sent them back, and left. But NASA didn't send us to document, they sent us to open. So we squeezed through. The air changed immediately, though air shouldn't exist inside a sealed stone structure on Mars. But I felt something against my face, a pressure, a thickness, like I'd stepped into a room that someone had just breathed inside. We activated our lights. The walls were lined with carvings, not random symbols, stories, or at least sequences. A language carved in long sweeping arcs and sharp intersecting lines. Dr. Harris was shaking, excited, terrified, overwhelmed. She whispered, "This predates human civilization." "How do you know?" I asked. "Because I recognize it," she said. That sentence has stayed with me every night since. Because when she said she recognized it, there was something wrong in her voice, like she was remembering something, not discovering it. We moved deeper. The corridor stretched longer than physics should have allowed. The further we walked, the more the air felt heavy, like it had weight, like it was aware of us. And then we heard it. A whisper. Soft. Indistinct. Sound that wasn't sound. Harris froze. "Do you hear that?" We all did. The whispering was coming from deeper inside. We should have left. We should have turned around, but we kept going. At the end of the corridor was a chamber, a wide room carved into a perfect dome, and in the center of the room was a pedestal. On it sat an object, smooth and black like obsidian, shaped like a teardrop. It pulsed with faint light, like it was breathing. Harris reached toward it. The rest of us shouted. She ignored us. The moment her fingers touched the stone, the whispering stopped. And something else began. The noise like inhaling. A single deep breath. The stone lit up. The carvings on the walls lit up. The whole chamber pulsed. And then Harris turned to look at us, but her eyes weren't her eyes anymore. They were black, completely black. She spoke, not in English, not in any language I've heard, but I understood. "You should not have returned." My blood turned to ice. Before anyone could react, Harris collapsed. The stone went dark. The whispers faded. We raced to her, checked her vitals. She was alive, but unconscious. We carried her out, back through the corridor, back into the Martian sunlight. But when we emerged, I had the sinking feeling that something else had come out with us. Something we didn't understand. Something ancient. Something that had been waiting for someone to find it. And now, it was awake.
When we returned to base, Harris still hadn't woken up. We removed her helmet and checked her vitals again. Everything was normal. Too normal. Her breathing was steady, her pulse stable, her temperature consistent. But she didn't respond to touch, voice, light, anything. She looked like she was asleep, but it didn't feel like sleep. And her eyes, I couldn't stop thinking about her eyes, that endless black, like there was no pupil, no iris, no reflection, just void. A void that had looked back at us. We placed her in the medical chamber. Dr. Kessler, our team physician, ran every neurological test he could. Brain scans, blood work, neural stimulation. Nothing explained it. Everything said she was fine. Except she wasn't. I didn't sleep that first night. None of us did. We sat in the main cabin, strapped into our seats, staring at the floor, the ceiling, each other. The silence was unbearable. Even when no one spoke, I could feel something pressing against the air. A presence, like the atmosphere had thickened. Around 0317 mission time, I heard the first sound. A whisper. So soft I thought it was just my mind replaying memories. But it grew louder. Not through the air, but directly inside my head, like someone was breathing behind my ear. I turned to the others, and by the look on their faces, I knew they heard it too. Dr. Kessler whispered, "Is that Harris?" Sloan, our pilot, swallowed hard. "It's coming from the medical chamber." We all moved toward the sealed door. The whispering intensified. Layers of sound, words overlapping words, a language without form, but full of meaning. A meaning we weren't supposed to understand. Kessler unlocked the door. Inside, Harris was sitting upright, not lying down, not unconscious, just sitting there. Her head tilted slightly, like she was listening to something distant. Her eyes were closed, but her mouth was moving, whispering, speaking that same impossible language. We stood there frozen, unsure whether to approach or back away. She didn't acknowledge us, didn't look up, didn't react. Kessler called her name softly. "Alyssa, can you hear me?" Nothing. He stepped closer. I wanted to grab him, to stop him. Every instinct in me screamed to get away, to run, but I didn't move. He touched her shoulder. Her eyes opened. Black. Completely black. Like before. Like the chamber. Like the thing that had spoken through her. Her head turned toward us, but not smoothly. It was too slow, too deliberate, like she was discovering how to control her own body again. And they weren't her eyes looking at us. When she spoke, her voice was layered, two tones, like something was speaking through her. "You should not have come here." We all stepped back. Kessler asked, barely able to speak, "Who are you?" Her face twitched. The muscles pulled unnaturally, like her expression was being forced into a shape it didn't know how to make. "We are what remains." "Remains of what?" I asked, before I could stop myself. Her gaze locked onto mine, and for a moment, I was gone. Not physically, but mentally. My vision went black, and then I was somewhere else. A city, but alien. Towers of red stone rising into clouds of violet and gold, bridges of sunlight, streets lined with structures that hummed like they were alive, and beings, tall, slender, graceful, walking in patterns that were precise and fluid. Their skin shimmered like metallic dust. Their eyes were glowing. They were beautiful, peaceful, advanced. But then, I saw the sky tear open. A rip, a fracture, a wound in reality. A darkness poured out. Not smoke, not matter, but consciousness. A hunger. The beings tried to stop it, tried to seal the tear, but the darkness was endless. It crawled inside them, corrupted them, turned them into shadows of themselves. A war followed, not fought with weapons, but thoughts, memories, identity itself. When the city fell, the survivors retreated below the surface, into chambers, into the dark. They sealed themselves away, carrying with them something they didn't want to lose. Knowledge, memory, or perhaps their very souls. The door was not an entrance. It was a tomb. I snapped back into my body. The room was spinning. I collapsed to my knees, gasping for breath. Sloan had his back pressed against the wall, eyes wide open with terror. Kessler was frozen in place, pale and shaking. Harris, or whatever was speaking through her, whispered, "Now it remembers you." I whispered back, "What does?" She smiled. But it wasn't her smile. The one who waits. The whispering stopped. Her eyes returned to normal, and she collapsed. Kessler checked her vitals again, still normal, still alive, still inexplicable. We didn't speak for a long time.
Harris regained consciousness 9 hours later. She didn't remember anything. Not the chamber, not the pedestal, not the voice, not the city. She asked why we all looked terrified. We didn't tell her. Instead, we prepared a transmission to Earth to report an unspecified medical emergency. We didn't mention the door, or the whispering, or the visions. We were afraid of what NASA would decide to do if they knew. But before we could send it, the signal cut out. Communication blackout. Not interference, not equipment failure. It was deliberate. The base's systems suddenly displayed a security override, a message we'd never seen before. Mission priority update. Maintain position. Do not transmit unauthorized data. Proceed with objective. Sloan slammed his fist into the console. They knew something was here. Kessler whispered. Then why did they send us? I already knew the answer. Not to study it, not to investigate it, to wake it. They wanted to know if the thing in that chamber was still alive, still aware, still active. We were the test. The rest of that day was a blur of fear, paranoia, silence, and pacing. None of us trusted each other. Not fully. Not anymore. Every time Harris blinked, I flinched. Every time I heard the soft hiss of the air recycler, I thought it was whispering. The walls felt like they were breathing. And then night fell. Martian night is different. It's colder than death. Still. Empty. The stars look sharper, too sharp, like needles in the sky. That was when we heard it again. Not whispering inside our heads, but outside, on the surface. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Sloan grabbed the rover camera controls and rotated the external feed toward the sound. There was nothing there, just darkness. Then the camera glitched, a flicker, a blur, a shape moving faster than the frame rate could capture. Tall, thin, too many joints in the limbs, a silhouette that didn't move like a person. Something was standing just outside the base, watching us. No one spoke. No one breathed. The creature, or shadow, or whatever it was, tilted its head, the same slow, unnatural movement Harris had made, like it was trying to understand us. Then it tapped on the outer hull of the base. Once, twice, 3 times, like knocking, like asking to be let in. And just when the terror became too much, the knocking stopped. The camera feed cut out entirely. The base lights flickered. The air felt colder, the atmosphere heavier, and then we heard Harris whisper behind us. I remember now. We turned. She was standing, her eyes black again, and she was smiling. Harris stood in the center of the main cabin, her shadow stretching long across the floor from the emergency lights. The power flickered again, guttering like a dying flame. Her eyes, black as the void outside, didn't blink. She didn't look afraid. She looked
aware. No one moved. Not me, not Sloan, not Kessler, not the others. It felt like if any of us spoke or breathed too loudly, something inside her would shatter loose. "Harris," Kessler said, voice trembling. "Elizabeth, can you hear me?" She smiled. Slow, mechanical, a face learning to imitate emotion. "I remember now," she said. "I remember before." "Before what?" I forced out. The lights flickered again. The bass hummed under our feet, a low vibration like a distant engine or a heartbeat. "Before the silence," she whispered. She stepped forward. We didn't dare move. The feeling in the air was thick, heavy, like we were underwater. Her presence didn't feel like Harris anymore. It felt like the thing inside the chamber was wearing her like a suit. We hid. We sealed the knowledge so the dark could not consume it. We buried memory beneath stone and time, but memory always finds a way to return. Her voice layered again, human and something else speaking in perfect sync. We waited. We waited for you to open the door. My skin crawled. "You were calling to us," I whispered. "No." She tilted her head. "You were always part of us." The room spun. I felt the vision clawing at the edges of my mind again. The alien city, the sky rent open, the darkness spilling in. But this time, I didn't fall fully into it. I stayed in my body, just barely. Sloan snapped. He lunged forward, grabbing Harris by the shoulders and shaking her. "What did you bring here? What are you?" Her head slowly turned to look at him. Her eyes didn't blink, didn't narrow, didn't change at all. "You should not touch what is remembering itself." Then the base lights died. Pitch black. Only the sound of ragged breathing. Our breathing, not hers. In the dark, something moved. A shape. A rustle. A step. Then Harris spoke, her voice right beside my ear, though she hadn't been standing near me a moment before. "You think the dark is empty. It is full." A light snapped on, Sloane's wrist lamp. The beam cut across the room. Harris wasn't there. We searched the entire base. Kitchen, storage, airlock, bunks. She was gone. No suit missing, no opened hatch, no tracks in the dust outside. It was impossible. But she was gone. Kessler sank to the floor, hands over his face. "She didn't leave. She didn't walk out. It's still here. It's still inside with us." Sloan checked the oxygen tank monitors. "We have 4 days of supply. If we power down non-essential systems, maybe 6. The math didn't matter. Time didn't matter. Something else was coming. When I closed my eyes that night, I didn't sleep. I saw the city again, but closer this time. The tall beings, the shimmering skin, the harmony in the air. Their world had been beautiful. They weren't primitives. They weren't savages. They didn't build with war in mind. They didn't know fear. They didn't have a word for it. Until the dark came. I watched it again. The tear in the sky, the living shadow spilling like ink into water, seeping into minds first, then bodies. The beings tried to contain it, to seal themselves away, to create vaults of memory and warning. And they left something behind to guard it, something still waiting. When I opened my eyes, hours had passed. The lights were still dimmed. Sloan and Kessler hadn't slept either. No one talked about what they saw when they closed their eyes. But we all knew it was showing us the same thing. Not just a vision, a memory, a shared memory. Like it was teaching us, or preparing us. The next day the signal returned. Not NASA, not mission control, just a single transmission.
A repeating message. Not in English, not in any Earth language, but after the visions, we could understand it. Open the door. The message played again, and again, and again. Kessler slammed his hands against the console. They want us to go back. Sloan shook his head. We destroy the rover. We stay inside, we wait it out. They have to send extraction eventually. Do you really believe that? I asked. Sloan's face went blank. He didn't. They were never going to pick us up. We weren't missing. We weren't abandoned. We were expected to die here, like the others before us, because we were not the first.
The files we'd seen, the data we were given, the mission logs, all of it incomplete, redacted, sanitized. I thought it was incompetence, but it wasn't. It was censorship. This wasn't Ares 9. It wasn't the 9th mission to Mars. We were the 22nd. The others had disappeared, and no one ever told us. The base alarm suddenly blared. A motion alert. Exterior proximity breach. Sloan lunged for the camera controls, but the feed flickered again. Static. Fractures in the imagery. A silhouette caught only in broken frames. Tall, thin, elongated limbs, head slightly too large, joints bending wrong. It stood at the edge of the light cast by our external flood, waiting, watching. "What does it want?" Sloan whispered. I already knew. It wants us to remember it. It wants to finish what was started. The figure stepped forward, slow, silent, deliberate. Kessler ran to the emergency panel and slammed the shutters closed. The metal slabs sealed the windows. The base shook. Something pressed against the wall. Not banging this time. Breathing. Deep. Slow. Steady. Like it was smelling the air. Then a voice, not through sound, not through speakers, but directly inside our minds. "Open the door." Sloan fell to his knees, clutching his head. Kessler screamed, pressing his palms against his ears. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to stay conscious, to stay aware. The breathing outside stopped. Silence. Then, a tap on the window shutters. Once, twice, 3 times. The exact rhythm from before. Then footsteps, moving away. We didn't speak for minutes. Finally, Sloan whispered, "If we stay here, we die." Kessler looked up slowly. "If we go back to the chamber, we die." I sat there staring at the floor, and then I realized we were wrong. The being outside was not the one speaking through Harris. It wasn't the thing in the chamber. It was the victim. The thing that had corrupted the city. The darkness was not a creature. It was hunger. Shapeless, formless, mindless. But the being outside, that was one of the original inhabitants. It had survived, but not whole, not sane, not free. It was trying to stop us, not because it wanted us to live, but because waking what slept in that chamber would unleash the darkness again. We weren't being hunted. We were being warned. That was when the inner airlock cycled. The indicator light turned yellow. Someone was inside it. Kessler froze. Who opened the lock? Sloan whispered, "Harris." The inner doors slid open, and Harris stepped out. But she wasn't wearing a suit. No breathing apparatus, no life support, nothing. And she was breathing on Mars, in a vacuum of air too thin to sustain human life. Her skin had changed. No longer pale, no longer soft. It shimmered, like the beings in the city. Her eyes were black, yes, but now they glowed faintly, a dim, pulsing light. She looked ancient, like something older than humanity was wearing her body. She spoke, not to us, not to the room, to something deeper. "It is time," she whispered, and something inside the base answered. A sound like inhaling, not air, memory. The base lights flickered back on, but everything felt darker. Harris smiled gently, softly, almost sadly. "Come," she said. "We must return to the door." And then she walked out into the Martian night. No helmet, no suit, no fear. We watched her silhouette fade into the red darkness, and we had a choice: stay and wait for the darkness to come, or follow her and open the door.
We stood in silence long after Harris disappeared into the darkness. The base felt smaller now, like the walls had begun to close around us. Even the recycled air tasted stale, metallic, as if we were breathing something old. Sloan was the first to move. He grabbed his helmet and locked it into place with shaking hands. "We're not staying here," he said. "I'm not waiting to suffocate. If there's even the smallest chance she's still alive in there, we go." He didn't have to convince us. Not really. There was nowhere else to go. No rescue coming. No Earth on the other end of our signal. We powered up the rover, though its screens and systems flickered like something was interfering. I tried not to think about what that something might be. The drive to the door felt different this time. The landscape looked wrong, as if the shadows had grown longer, sharper. The stars overhead didn't twinkle. They stared, silent and cold. No one spoke. The rover rolled to a stop at the edge of the canyon. There it was again. The door, but the first time we saw it, it had looked dormant, still, waiting. Now, it seemed awake. The carvings glowed faintly, pulsing with a slow rhythm, like breathing. We climbed out. There were tracks in the dust, footprints, not ours. They were larger and not shaped like any animal that had ever walked Earth. Harris stood at the entrance. She turned as we approached, her movements fluid in a way no human body should move. Her hair floated slightly as though suspended in water, though there was no wind. She smiled at us. "You remembered," she said gently. "Good. There is still hope for you." Sloane's voice cracked. "Alyssa, are you in there? Are you still—" She stepped toward him, placing her hand on his chest. "Your fear is not a flaw. It means you are still yourselves." Kessler swallowed hard. "What are you now?" She looked up toward the red sky. "A bridge." Then she turned and walked into the darkness of the doorway, and we followed. The tunnel was different now. The whispering no longer sounded like nonsense. It sounded like voices, layered thousands deep, speaking memories, names, warnings, grief. I felt my pulse sinking with the rhythm of the stone. We reached the chamber. The teardrop-shaped object still sat on the pedestal, but now there were shapes moving along the walls, shadows of the beings from the visions. Tall, graceful, silent,
just outlines, echoes of memory. Harris approached the stone. "This is not a weapon," she said. "This is a key." "To what?" I asked. She turned to me, to the past, to what was lost, to what still sleeps and dreams in the dark places beyond your world. Sloan shook his head. "Then we destroy it, we bury it, we make sure nothing comes out of here ever." Harris smiled sadly, the way a parent might look at a frightened child. "You cannot destroy memory," she said. "You can only choose which memories to carry." Her hand hovered over the stone. I felt something pulling at me, like gravity, but emotional, mental, gravitational, something drawing out my thoughts, my history, my life. Kessler stepped forward, trembling. "If you open that thing, the darkness comes back, doesn't it? The thing that destroyed your world." Harris's expression changed. "No," she said. "The darkness is already awake. It has been awake since your people first stared into the night sky and wondered if they were alone." The chamber vibrated. Dust drifted from the ceiling. The darkness is not a thing. It is a forgetting, a loss of self, a collapse of memory into hunger. She touched the stone. The chamber lit. The walls glowed, and we saw it again. The city, the beauty, the peace, then the tear in the sky, the fall, the ruin. But this time we saw one more thing. We saw how the survivors, those who sealed themselves into the chamber, had bound a part of their consciousness into the stone so that someday someone might remember, might learn, might prevent the same catastrophe again. We were not meant to awaken the darkness. We were meant to remember the light. The stone pulsed once. A shockwave ran through the chamber. Sloan screamed. Kessler collapsed. I fell to my knees. Harris turned to us. "The darkness does not come from outside," she said softly. "It comes from forgetting who you are." Her eyes flickered, black fading to brown, brown fading to black. She was fighting it. She was holding it back. Kessler crawled toward me, clutching my arm. "We have to leave. We have to go now." But I couldn't look away from Harris. I realized then. She wasn't possessed. She wasn't controlled. She was carrying them. Carrying the memory of an entire civilization. She was trying to save us. Her voice trembled now, layered, struggling. "You must tell them. You must remember. You must make them remember." The ceiling cracked. The chamber shook. The walls began to crumble. Sloan dragged Kessler toward the exit. "Move! Move!" I reached for Harris, but she stepped back. "I cannot go with you," she whispered. "Harris! Alyssa!" She smiled. Grief, love, hope. "You knew me," she said. "That is enough." The chamber ceiling collapsed. I ran. The tunnel shook. The walls screamed with ancient pressure. The light behind us pulsed like a dying star. We burst into the Martian night. The canyon trembled, a roar of stone and dust. The entrance sealed behind us. Sloan fell to the ground, sobbing. Kessler stared in numb silence. I stood, staring at the door buried beneath rubble.
The stars overhead flickered softly, cold, distant. When we returned to the base hours later, the external communication array had reactivated. A message waited. Prepare for debrief. Do not discuss mission findings. NASA knew. They always knew. Extraction came 3 days later. They took our suits, our helmets, our samples, our reports, our memories. They separated us. They interrogated us. They made us write the events again and again until our recollections blurred and frayed, until we doubted what we had seen, until we questioned our own minds. But memories don't disappear. They wait. They return in dreams, in shadows, in the quiet moments between heartbeats. Kessler did not last. He ended it himself 6 months after we returned. Sloan is still alive, but he does not speak. He sits staring out windows at night, watching the stars like they're staring back. As for me, I remember. And now so do you. NASA covered up what we found on Mars. Not to hide an alien threat, but to hide the truth that humanity has forgotten again and again. We were never the first. We were never alone. And the darkness does not come from the stars. It comes from us. And it is waking.